Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly live immigration attorney chat here at Immigration for Couples. If you are new to our Facebook page, YouTube channel, wherever you might be watching this, our firm, Immigration for Couples, is dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and across the world in navigating the U.S. immigration process. And I see we already have some viewers that are here with us live. Good morning, Lisa. It's great to have you with us. All right. And so we are actually doing these lives now on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And so this is live on all three of those platforms. And for those of you who are here watching live, the way that these Facebook lives are handled, or the way our process, is that I take questions that I have been receiving on all of our different platforms, and then also just really important updates that happen in the world of immigration for couples that you should be aware of. And so today's topic that I have lined up is I'd like to discuss with all of you the USCIS processing times that we're seeing a decrease and what you should know about that and when you should file your case. And so that's what we'll talk about here today. And for those of you who are watching live, can you please throw in the comments, wherever you're watching, please tell us where are you at in the world right now? One of the beautiful things about my work in the world and my entire team that we love so much is that we get to literally help people all over the world. And it's fantastic. And so I love to hear from all of you. Where are you at in the world? Good morning. Yay, Dubai. I love Dubai. It's very beautiful there. It's been a little bit more than a year since my husband and I were there, but it's a beautiful place. That's awesome you're watching from there. Vermont, Texas, Arizona, and you're an expat and you're in the Philippines. Awesome, awesome. Good morning, Haruna. Oh, you were telling us you were watching from Dubai. And good morning and hello. Awesome. I love seeing all of you here today. This is why it's been great to do these lives on all of the different platforms so everybody can participate. All right. And I'd like to bring your attention to our free resource center. So we have a free resource center at Immigration for Couples. It is immigrationforcouples.com. That's simple. And let me pull up some of the comments here. So it's immigrationforcouples.com. We have a very robust resource centered. We have a free relationship evidence guide if you want to know more about how to prove your love is real. And we have downloadable cards that go over the process for the fiance visa and the spouse visa. So be sure to check those out. So I'd like to go over the topic that I have lined up here today. USCIS processing times have decreased. So what does that mean? And what is the processing time now for cases? And for those of you who are joining us live, if you've just now joined, please throw in the comments where you're watching, where you are in the world right now. And if you have any questions, please feel free to throw those in the comments. And once I go through this topic here that I have lined up for today, I'm happy to go over any questions that you all have. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you have a question, it's likely that other individuals do as well. All right, so let's dig in. USCIS processing times have decreased. And so I love being able to share great news. I know for those of you who are going through an immigration process or just starting out, its immigration processes are long. But we are seeing that those lengthy processing times are starting to decrease. USCIS announced in 2023 that they were hiring and training more officers, that they were taking important steps to decreasing the wait time. And then they have announced this year that in fiscal year 2023 that they processed 10.9 rather million applications. That's crazy, right? And the great news is because they have processed so many applications, the average wait time of 10.5 months has now decreased to 6.5 months for most cases. Now, I know you're thinking, well, my case is taking longer than 6.5 months. So it's important to understand that for most immigration cases like the fiance and spouse visa, USCIS is part of the first phase of the case. And then the case moves on to the National Visa Center that has its own wait time. And then it goes to a US embassy or consulate that has its own wait time. So it's the wait time overall adds up those different parts of the case. And the USCIS wait times, so for the part of the case or for cases like naturalization or adjustment of status that happen completely in the US, we are seeing a decrease. Most notably is the fiance visa. So the fiance visa processing times, if you check online, you'll see that it still shows on USCIS an estimate of well over 12 months or well over a year. And USCIS has really updated their online processing times tool to give more of, and they used to kind of do averages, and then they used to break it up by all the different service centers. And depending on the case type, they've started really consolidating the estimate and giving one number instead of a range. And so they're putting an estimate for what is most likely the highest amount of time a person would have to wait. So immigration wait times are fluid. They're always changing. There's so many factors as to why one case would take longer than another. But we are seeing with the fiance visa that while it says more than a year, most of our clients are receiving a decision in 8 months or less on that very first step of the process. We're seeing that the spouse visa is also decreasing in wait time. Naturalization is another really big one that they are prioritizing. Immigration is prioritizing naturalization applications. Naturalization is the process that one goes through to go from green card to US citizenship. And they're prioritizing those applications with the elections coming up here soon because they want anyone who is eligible to become a citizen and who wants to vote to be able to do that. And so that's really what we're seeing across the board. And two, I want to mention with the adjustment of status, that's the process that happens after a person receives a fiance visa. And adjustment of status is also a process for couples who happen to be together here in the United States and have gotten married. We have seen that process decrease as well to well under a year in most cases. And they're waiving, and not all cases, but in most cases, they're waiving that interview requirement, which is awesome. So that helps to shorten that wait time as well. Work permits too. And I know I've made videos. I don't know if any of you have seen the updates. If you're just starting out in your immigration journey, you might not be aware. So I'll let you know here. USCIS on April 1st did increase prices on the government fees for across the board, really for all applications. Their logic is that there hasn't been an increase in fees for many, many years, and they're hopeful that the additional fees will further help their efforts to reduce the processing times. All right, so I can see that we have a lot of people watching live, and then I have a bunch of comments. So I will wrap up this topic here and let me jump over to the comments tab. And you'll have to bear with me because I have 3 different platforms and a flurry of questions coming in from a lot of different places. You probably can only see if you're watching on Facebook the questions there. So just give me one moment and I will get my bearings straight and start with the first question. And I have some more people who are joining us. Good morning, Annette. It's great to have you with us. Ooh, Paris. That's awesome, Emily. Emily in Paris. I hope you don't mind me bringing up that show and comparing you to that, but that is one of my favorites. I enjoy that. Paris is that's awesome. So happy you could be with us. All right. Am I using 3 screens? I could use 3 screens. With all of the forms and the hundreds of pages and evidence, I have 2. It's really cool. I have 1 screen and my lives, and then I get to see all of your questions here consolidated in one place. But I could use 3 screens with all of the data points and evidence that I look at every day. Tennessee, awesome. Thanks for being with us. All right. We have Arizona, Texas, Philippines. Okay. So a VAWA case. So VAWA is the Violence Against Women's Act. It's not just, it was created for instances of domestic violence to provide protection. While it's called Violence Against Women Act, it's also available for men as well. So it's really covers any situation of domestic violence. So if a person is in a relationship with a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident, and they were going through an immigration process and they were suffering abuse and needed to get out of that relationship, there can still be a way that a person can receive their green card through VAWA. because immigration didn't want individuals, VAWA was created because immigration didn't want individuals to have to stay stuck in a relationship just because they thought that, a lot of times manipulation and abuse, and the abuser would say, if you leave, I'll report you and you won't be able to get your green card. And immigration wanted to prevent at least that type of backlash for victims. So if a VAWA case is denied, it's really going to depend on the basis. Any immigration case, if your case is denied, it depends on the reason for the denial. Is it because you didn't meet the eligibility requirements? Is it from a technical flaw, like you forgot to include a certain document and didn't respond to a request for evidence on time? It always depends on what is the reason for the denial. Because once you know that, then you will be able to make a strategy and understand, is it possible to refile? Is it possible to cure that defect? Are there other immigration options available to me? So when an immigration case is denied, if a person is in the United States, it is possible that that individual's case can be referred to immigration court for deportation proceedings. So as to how long it would take for immigration to come in to get you and deport you, there's no way of knowing exactly when that could happen. Typically, it's a referral to immigration court. And it's really important, if you're in a situation where your case has been denied, if you don't already have an immigration attorney, it's imperative that you have an immigration attorney in your corner that can help you work through, why was my case denied? What are my options to cure this? What are my options to protect myself and still have lawful status in the US? Okay. I hope you don't have a denied VAWA case, but if you do, please reach out to an immigration attorney. You can schedule a consultation, with our office. Just to be clear, we don't handle removal defense in immigration court. We handle cases for couples, but if you are in a position where you do have a denial, it's imperative that you talk to an attorney. Okay. So Libby, you're in Jamaica, and you're wanting to know why it's taking you so long to get your passport back. So I'm assuming from context that you probably had some kind of interview, be it a fiance visa or a spouse visa interview. Part of that process is the embassy official, the immigration officer, is going to keep your passport, because ultimately, if your case is approved, they'll put that visa inside your passport. If they kept your passport and then they requested some additional documents from you and weren't able to make a decision that day, they can unfortunately hold on to your passport for a while. Why? That's a good question for the embassy. So you can always, pretty much all US embassies and consulates have an email address or an inquiry portal, a place where you can go through a portal and input your information and ask for an update on your case status and where your passport is and what is going on with your case. You can always reach out and do that. So it can be a lot of different reasons why, but the best place to ask would be that US embassy or consulate. All right. Good luck with your case. Okay. I have a lot of questions here. This is awesome. All right, Haruna. All right, you have a question. You have been documentarily qualified since December of 2023. When should you expect to get your interview date that my spouse filed for me? All right. So for those of you who might not know what being documentarily qualified is, when you're going through a spouse visa process, there's a phase at the National Visa Center where you're required to submit all of your documentation, complete a very long background screening questionnaire or application rather. And then from there, the National Visa Center's job is not to make a decision on your application. Their job is to go through all of your documentation and information and ensure you have everything that's required by that US Embassy or consular post to be able to be scheduled for an interview. If you have everything on their checklist, then they will poke the US Embassy or consulate and say, hey, these individuals are documentarily qualified and ready for an interview. But the popular question, the common question is, when will that interview happen? I want to be done with this process. And the US embassies and consulates, they post estimated times for certain visa types, student visas, tourist visas in terms of scheduling, but they don't post really how long it is taking for them to schedule an interview for all of the other categories of immigration benefits, because it does vary month to month. So It really does depend. I'll give you a general estimate when I'm thinking about all of the countries in the world and all of the places where you could have an immigration interview. In general, interviews happen anywhere between 6 to 8 months later. There's a lot of US embassies and consulates that I'm thinking of specifically, like Mexico, a lot of US embassies and consulates in African countries. They tend to have a longer wait time. Mexico, because they're super high volume, and then a lot of the countries in Africa, they have shorter staff. They usually have smaller consular posts, and it takes them longer to schedule. And I'm speaking in general terms, but usually 6 to 8 months for an interview is kind of what we see. There are some embassies or consular posts that are super fast and very efficient, and you'll have an interview in a few months, and then others can take a little longer. Good luck. I hope you get your interview soon. I know you said you were in Dubai. I don't know if you're consular processing in Abu Dhabi, but they tend to be a little bit of a more efficient consular post, and 6 to 8 months is a pretty good estimate. So good luck with your case, and you're very welcome. May God see you through as well in your immigration journey. All right. Let me see. We have a lot of questions here. Cool. This is a very good question. This is a wonderful question. I'm the petitioner on a fiancé visa application. And last year you didn't meet the poverty guideline, but you recently got a new job. Should I wait until I file taxes next year before filing the I-129F, or can I file this year using pay stubs? I'm so glad that you're asking this question, because so many couples put off filing the fiancé visa or spouse visa petition because they don't make enough based on poverty guidelines for that dreaded affidavit of support. The affidavit of support for fiancé and spouse visas cases is something that happens not in the first step, but in a future step. So that very first step, the petition, that is not a step where they're going to be looking at your finances. That will happen later. So long as you meet all of the other eligibility requirements and you have enough evidence to prove your relationship, filing your petition now is a great idea. And knowing that that step for the affidavit of support will happen later. And we help clients here at Immigration for Couples all the time. This is exactly what we do when we're meeting with clients, working with clients, is we form a strategy for the entirety of the case. We know that affidavit of support is coming. That's an important consideration, but we don't want a client to hold off or put their life on hold waiting to come into compliance with that affidavit of support, as it doesn't happen until later in the process. And so we'll look at your taxes, we'll look at what you're making, we'll talk about, hey, this is what we're seeing for an estimated wait time of when we'll get a decision. And then there are things we can do to, if we get to that stage of the interview where the affidavit of support becomes available, we work with clients to maybe schedule an interview date at a time we know that they would have filed their taxes for that year. So for 2023 here, for example, and that they would qualify when you get to that interview phase. So you do not have to put off filing, because that is not a piece that happens until later. If you're needing help with your case, if you're looking to have an attorney assist you in the process, you're welcome to book a consultation with myself. I can talk you through that, and we could talk about how we can help you. Our website is immigrationforcouples.com. So, but great question. A lot of people ask that. Okay. So will USCIS or NVC look up your tax filing? So, and this, I guess, was probably an extension of your question. It's really important that you file taxes if you've made enough for that year, if you've met the threshold to file, and you're required to provide your taxes as part of the process, typically 3 years of tax returns. So very important to file. All right. Okay. I have another question here. Okay. So you received your notice of action 2 in February. So that is a lot of people call it NOA 2. We call it an approval notice. So you received your approval notice. I am not sure I'm assuming from context, this is probably a fiancé visa case, because fiancé visa petitions have a validity of 4 months, and you're waiting to get your notification from the National Visa Center. So I encourage you to read through the entirety of that approval notice, or what you're calling the NOA2. There's very tiny letters, but there's a ton of really important information in all those tiny letters on that approval notice. And there's information in there that says if you haven't gotten a notification from the National Visa Center within 30 days, that you can reach out to the National Visa Center via their inquiry portal and say, hey, my case was approved. Can you send me my consular case number? So please read through that approval. And then also, if you're getting close to the expiration period or the validity period on your fiancé visa petitions, we historically, before COVID, it was really important that you reached out to the embassy or consular post asking for an extension if everything couldn't be completed in that time frame. The Department of State has since announced that it's not necessary, but the government changes their mind oftentimes overnight. So we do reach out to the consular post. That is what you would do if you're wanting an extension. You'd reach out to the consulate where you will be having your interview and let them know, we would like to move forward, but we haven't gotten the NVC notice or any other notifications from immigration. We ask that you extend the petition. All right. So best of luck on your case. Thank you for the question. Okay, so Lisa, you ask a question in the discussion section on this event. So if you put a question, my goodness, the chat is on fire. Okay, so Lisa, if you mean that you put a question on the announcement for the live, I have not seen that yet. If you want to put it in the comments, I can answer that here today. If not, I'll be sure to grab your question and use it as our question of the week for next week. All right. Okay. So you had to do a waiver. Can you submit a complete COVID vaccination record instead of a waiver, even if they asked for a waiver already? So I'd need a lot more details to give you any feedback on this. If you were trying to get a vaccination waiver and you didn't have your COVID vaccine at the time of your medical exam or at the time of your interview, if you have an attorney, that's a great place. Ask your attorney, work with your attorney on what your next steps will be. Otherwise, you would need to reach out to the embassy directly or to the medical clinic and see what your options are, because I would need, like I said, I need a lot more context to understand exactly where you are in that case. If you don't have an attorney and you're needing help, you're always welcome to schedule a consultation. All right. Good luck to you. You just got an online code. Do you know the estimated times for people in 2024? So I'm not sure if you mean that you received your I-130 receipt notice with the online access code. I-130 wait times, you can check USCIS processing times tool, put in your case number, or your case type. So I-130, I-129F, whatever that is, pick the processing center that's listed on your receipt and you can see an estimate. If you weren't able to be with us for the beginning of this live, this is all recorded, and I would highly recommend you listen to it from the beginning, because I was talking about processing times decreasing. All right. Okay. All right. Emily, who is in Paris. Our case currently says your case is taking longer to process. Is this something to worry about? We have clients, we let our clients know actually that the online system is going to say that. So you probably created an online account with USCIS, and they're working towards more transparency. So you always know where your case is at in terms of wait time. And a lot of times it'll show like 30 days until you receive a decision. And then each day, it ticks down. And then all of a sudden it changes to your case is taking longer than expected to process. It's very ominous. I know it can be scary to see that, but the reality is they put an internal goal in the immigration, in the world of immigration, and their office. They put these internal goals of wanting to process applications in a certain amount of time. And if it's taking them longer than what they had anticipated, that's what it will say. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's any kind of flaw or defect in your application. Hopefully you receive a decision soon. Oh, I am so good. I'm so glad you love that show too. Okay. yeah, there have been a lot of people on Reddit with really fast approval times. We've had a lot of clients with really fast approval times. We call them sometimes our unicorn cases too, where they'll come way faster, like in a few months. And we are definitely seeing wait times decreasing. Immigration has definitely made a concerted effort to hire more officers, and they're trying to decrease their processing times. So yeah, we are definitely seeing that too. Okay. Good morning, Eds. I'm so glad that you got to be with us. If anybody is joining us here now, if you want to throw in the chat where in the world you are right now. We have someone from Georgia, someone from Delaware that recently joined us. Okay. Oh, yes, and I answered your question. Okay. And I want to try to do these questions in order. I don't think, oh, this is an interesting question. Can you have a virtual wedding from Utah with someone who lives in Algeria? So I would recommend, and our team can put in the comments here today on all of the platforms on Facebook and YouTube, that we have I did a podcast episode with someone named Reverend Heron. She's awesome. She actually is licensed or certified, if you will, to be able to perform these virtual weddings. And she's done hundreds, actually, I think over 1,000. And the virtual weddings are great. Utah created these virtual weddings even before COVID. What foresight, right? And they wanted to make getting married an easier, more streamlined process. And they never conceptualized, they never imagined that the virtual wedding would be beneficial to people in other countries. It just has had a really great impact on the world. And it's really important to understand that if you are doing a virtual wedding, we have clients that do that all the time, that you're doing it in a way that you are ensuring that you have that legal wedding, but that you're also in compliance with immigration requirements. Having a virtual wedding is great. And if you are not in the same place, immigration has another requirement that's called the consummation requirement to approve a spouse visa petition, that you have been physically together, that you've consummated that marriage. So yes, while you can get married legally to someone in another country through the virtual marriage, it's important to understand immigration has some other requirements beyond that for when you're filing your case to ensure that it can get approved. And we'd be happy, to help you with your particular case and talking through your scenario if you're planning on getting married, and making sure that you're doing it in a way, and we can help you, we can help you with the entirety of the process to make sure that the virtual marriage is something that's viable and will lead to an approval in your case. All right. So great question. Okay. Is there a longer... Good morning, Pooja. It's great to have you here. Is there a longer wait time for extreme hardship waivers? So there's a provisional waiver, an I-601A, that is for individuals who have entered the United States without inspection, without documents, and have been here without documents. If you've been in the U.S., if you've stayed beyond the time of your tourist visa or ESTA, or if you entered the United States without inspection and you've been here for more than 180 days, you have a 3-year bar, more than a year, a 10-year bar. So then there's also 601 waivers that are for all of the other grounds of inadmissibility. And so what does that mean? The Immigration and Nationality Act has a very long list of problems that a person can have in their immigration history. Some of those problems have a waiver of forgiveness, that you can ask for forgiveness, and some of them don't. Almost all of the waivers, the provisional waivers and 601 waivers, have a component that you have to show, or an element or a requirement that you have to show extreme hardship to the U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident petitioner. So all of that background, so all of you understand what this question is really about. Is there a long wait time? Now I get to the part where, yeah, unfortunately, they have a very long wait time. Provisional waivers have a more than 4-year wait. 601 waivers are more than a 2-year wait. There have been lawsuits that have been filed against the government for these outrageous processing times. We are involved, Immigration for Couples and immigration attorneys and advocacy groups across the country. We are all advocating for a change in these waivers processing times, because it really just is inhumane, is what I would say. So unfortunately, there's very long wait times for the extreme hardship waivers. Hopefully we see a change though soon. Okay. And if I cannot get to all of these questions here today, these are great topics for future questions. So we have someone from South Carolina, Canada, Arizona. You're very welcome, Emily. You are very welcome, Anna. It's great to have you here. Okay. Okay. Let me grab a question. This is a lot. I'm just trying to get the ones that have come through in order, and then I can definitely go over more questions next week. You have a question, somebody has a question regarding an expired green card. That can be complex. It depends on why the green card is expired and where you happen to be in the world if there's a solution. We've helped a lot of people who have expired green cards or have complex situations. That's my specialty, is dealing in complex situations and navigating those for my clients. So if you would like to dive into your particular case, we'd be happy to do that in a consultation. All right. Okay. This is great news. So, not a question. You just have an FYI or an update for everyone. The owner of the house that here decided last night not to sell, so we can stay here until our immigration case is approved. An increase in rent, but so happy not to have to move and then move again once approved. Big relief indeed. I know with the immigration process being long and so many moving parts, life still happens and things happen in the process that can add some additional stress. So, thank you for sharing that. Everybody here, we're very happy for you, and best of luck with your immigration journey. Okay. So, how long does it take to get a work permit approved? You applied for adjustment of status through marriage, came here with a tourist visa, overstayed a year. Your priority date is December 8th, and waiting for my work permit, but still nothing. So generally, we're seeing work permits coming through a lot faster in 3 to 6 months, typically. But as I said, with immigration wait times, it really can vary from case to case. But in general, we're seeing that those are coming through in about 3 to 6 months. I hope that you receive one soon. It looks like based on your filing, your when you filed and all of that, your priority date. Hopefully, sometime here soon, and you can always check USCIS processing times tool with your receipt notice and looking at your receipt notice in your service center. All right. But good luck. Hopefully you get it soon. So you received your K-1 visa and you got married in the US. Congratulations on getting the visa. That's super exciting. And congratulations on your marriage. So do you need to file the I-130 and I-130A to do the K-1 green card status, adjustment of status? So this is one of those things where I see couples who, and it's completely fine, if you were to decide to do your case on your own, but this is one of those pitfalls that I see a lot where couples read online general information. And I'm glad you're asking this now before you file, because I see a lot of couples that end up filing forms that they don't need to file and paying fees that they don't need to pay. And you know what? Immigration will take the fees. And then they'll tell you later, hey, you didn't have to file it, but you won't get your money back, because that's just not how immigration works. So you can file whatever with immigration, and whether or not you're eligible, they'll still keep your money. So when you have a K-1 fiance visa, that very first step, that petition you filed in the very first step was what qualified your relationship. When you go into your green card application, you will need to include that proof that that prior petition was approved. But filing an I-130 and an I-130A, those are for a spouse visa petition. That's not for the green card app. So marriage green card apps, the forms that need to be filed and the evidence you need really will vary on the specifics of your case. So I hope that helps answer your question. And I invite you to check out our free resource center at immigrationforcouples.com. We actually have a chart on our website that goes over that fiance visa process in more detail for your reference. All right. Thanks for the question. And my calendar is pinging me to remind me that I have appointments coming up here. So I have About 5 more minutes. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. I really appreciate and I'm excited about the all everybody being able to join and ask their questions and be in community. That's so important. Um, okay, so you submitted all your required documentation to the NVC. How long do you have to wait for approval? So NVC doesn't approve anything. They will documentarily qualify your case to put you in line for an interview. They do post their wait times on the NVC website, and currently it's taking a few weeks for them to review and get back to you. Definitely check your CAC portal on a regular basis. All right. Um, Okay, this is a good question. You heard a story of a K-1 visa interview. They sent him an email for administrative processing even before the start of the interview. Is that possible to decide if you were approved or not before? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a really great question. And immigration officers, that's why it's super important. And that's why here at Immigration for Couples, every application that we send for our clients, we look at it like a human being and as an immigration officer, because we know that before an interview happens, they are going to look at everything and they already have a decision really oftentimes made in their mind. And through your application, they come up with questions. The consular post is really, they are looking at whether or not they believe that relationship is real. They're looking at eligibility, and if they see a flaw in the application before the interview, they can absolutely do that. They can actually even send it back to USCIS before, if they think that the case should be sent back to have a second look, or that it shouldn't have been approved. So yeah, that's a great question. It can definitely happen. Okay. Okay, so Jacob, looks like this is a follow-up from your question. You have an expired green card since 2011. You've been outside the US since 2003. So can you return to the US? Oof, that's a difficult situation. For everyone who has a green card or will receive a green card, it's really important to understand that one of the requirements of that green card is that you do not take trips more than 6 months outside of the US. If you take trips more than a year outside of the US without asking for permission from immigration, you're considered to have abandoned your green card. So it sounds like that is the situation in which you are in. Sometimes there are ways that you can still keep your green card. It's very fact specific, it's very case specific. And this is definitely something that we would need to talk more about in a consultation. And you would need legal advice. So I'm not giving you any legal advice right now, because I would need a lot more details. All right. But yeah, that's a difficult situation, and we can definitely talk and see if there are options. Okay. And some of these are just follow ups to what I was saying. So you are in Abu Dhabi, Haruna. Okay. And then, okay, while you are filing for your second green card, is it okay if your husband is doing a national debt relief, or would it be okay doing that when filing for the new green card? So Kirk, I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to make some assumptions, but I think you mean removal of conditions, filing for removal of conditions process. So removal of conditions is all about proving your relationship to immigration. So an individual will receive a 2 or a 10-year green card once they've gone through the spouse, fiance, or adjustment of status process. Those who've been married for less than 2 years at the time that their green card is issued will receive a 2-year conditional green card. That 2-year conditional green card requires that you file something called removal of conditions in the 90-day window before you reach that 2-year mark. And with that application, immigration is wanting to see, hey, that you're still in love, that you're still living together, that you still plan to have a future together, and that you still have that bona fide relationship. There isn't an affidavit of support component with that removal of conditions. So financial considerations are usually not an issue with removal of conditions. But again, I'm assuming, and I don't have all of the details and context of your particular case, but hopefully that information gives you some clarity. All right. Okay. Next week is good. You're at the beach. I want to be at the beach too. That sounds fantastic, Lisa. Okay. We have someone from Georgia. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, and she said to ask you. I guess so you must have seen the podcast episode then, and I'm guessing you mean Reverend Heron. Yeah, we can definitely talk in a consultation about the specifics of your case for sure, and we can help guide you. Okay, I have like one more minute. I'm gonna see if I can grab a quick question here. Um, your son filed the K-1 visa 3 weeks ago and has not received your receipt notice yet. Is that common? Yeah, it can take up to 4 5 weeks, sometimes 6 to receive the receipt notice. It really just depends on the mailroom. So hopefully that comes soon. It We like to send our government fees by check, and you can check your checking account register, your statement, your online account to see if those government fees have cleared. Typically, once you see government fees have cleared, you know that receipt notice should follow within a few weeks. Okay. Unfortunately, you're very welcome. Yeah, she has a two. Yeah, so you're this removal of conditions. Kurt, you're very welcome. Um, uh, okay. So I have a bunch more questions and I do need to jump to an appointment, and I wish that I could get through all of these. Please come next week. I'll try to grab the topics that I was not able to, and my team will help me to grab all of the questions that I wasn't able to get to, and I can go over those as topics for next week first off. So that way, if you can't join, or if you weren't able to join today and you're watching on the replay, do a hashtag replay. Let me know what your questions are, or if you can join us next week. We start at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Throw your questions in there. It's one of the first ones, and I'll definitely get to it. All right. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and I'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye.